Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today in Chaos Tactics I'm looking at all the rules for the 10th edition weapons and calculating the damage versus all the models from 10th edition we know so far. So a lot of Mathhammer for you in this video. So let's get started. So today, the 15th of April, lots of news every day from the Warhammer community. Yesterday evening, I was programming my computer to calculate all the Mathhammer for the new weapon rules. So in the new weapon rules for the 10th edition, reviewing the major rules and then calculating the damage output for all the weapons that we have seen so far versus all the model stat lines that we know defensively. To see which weapon does what damage to which enemy. So with no further ado, let's get started. So looking at all the weapon rules that we have so far, we have seen yesterday also that weapons can have more than one of the traditional profiles. For example, they could combine assault and heavy. So this is an example from the bolt rifle from the intercessors. Don't mix it up with the bolt gun that we have as death card. But we can see then the bolt rifle both has the assault and the heavy profile. Assault profile does similar as today, that it can be fired even after advancing the unit, but it doesn't say of any penalty by doing so. So as I read it, you would still be hitting on 3+ after advancing. So some advantage also for assault weapons going forward. The heavy weapon also gets a buff, so instead of, but you have a penalty while moving and you get -1 to hit. Now the new heavy rule is +1 to hit if you remain stationary. And this is quite a big buff because with a bolt rifle, if you're standing still, or if you have some rules we don't know yet for the factions that you count as remaining stationary while shooting, then you would be hitting on 2+, for example, in this example from the bolt rifle. So having a heavy thing is not really a liability. Then it's something that can give you an advantage compared to the standard profile. Then, as we have seen previously, there are anti-weapons. So these will wound on a particular target for a certain wound roll. So this ignores toughness. For example, anti-vehicle weapons we have seen, and they have mentioned anti-monster weapons. So in this case, for example, an anti-vehicle chain fist will be wounding on 3+, regardless of the toughness or abilities of the enemy, if it's a vehicle. And then we saw for the assault cannon, for the Terminators, the devastating wounds. Devastating wounds means that 6 is to wound, basically critical wound. Then this gives mortal wounds instead of the normal damage. So it's not in addition. It gives mortal wounds of the damage of the weapon. The assault cannon is damage 1 that we have seen. So if you hit a 6 to wound, then the enemy gets 1 mortal wound and cannot save. Basically, there is no armor save for that 6 to wound. The Melta weapons, so the Melta rifle shown, that was from the Eradicators. It received, as today, extra damage at half range, so d6 +2 at half range. It goes up to strength 9, so it will be wounding the new rhinos on a 4+, up from strength 8. But we see also the range, at least for the Melta rifle, for the Eradicators previously was 24-inch, now it's 18-inch, so a bit lower range. I don't know, the Melta gun previously for other armies with a 12-inch assault profile, we don't know how that works in the new edition yet. But Melta, at least at half range, they give you this 2 wounds extra. And then we have the sustained heat rule, also a generic universal rule. This is the exploding 6s to hit. So they show the example for the shuriken cannon. So 6s to hit here gives you a sustained hit 1. You get 1 additional hit if you hit a 6. If you have a sustained hit 2, then for every 6 you will get 2 extra hits. So a nice profile for the shuriken cannon. And then we go back to the rules from the twin linked. So twin linked works by giving reroll all the whole wound roll, basically like Arch Contaminator for a plague weapon for death card. And the example here are the aggressors. They're auto bolt storm gauntlets. When they have 2, they are twin linked, so you don't get more shots. You have 3 shots per gauntlet here. but you can re-roll the whole wound roll, and they show the same with the power fist for the aggressor here. Twin linked, hinting on a 4+. The Terminator's power fist that was not twin linked was hitting on a 3+. The twin linked power fist of the aggressor is hitting on a 4+, but you can re-roll the whole wound roll. And now in this table, I'm summarizing all the ranged weapons we have seen so far versus all the defensive profiles we have seen for the 10th edition units. And here you can see on the as rows you have all the weapons, the number of attacks, the weapon skill, the strength, AP, and damage, and then you have the defensive profiles for that we have seen. The Termagants being toughness 3, Intercessors toughness 4, the Terminators being buffed to toughness 5, 2+ save, and a 4+ invul, and then we have the 3 new vehicles. The Rhino, the Gladiator, and the Repulsor that we have seen. All of them have a 3+ save, no invul saves as we can see, and we have toughness 9, toughness 10, and toughness 12. And we can see then starting with the lowly Termagant Spine Fists. They have a twin-linked weapon only with a strength 3. We see here that it could kill half a Termagant. So the numbers on the table is how many wounds each attack of this weapon would do on a model, on an enemy model here. And we see, for example, the Termagant Spine Fist, not many wounds, of course, with strength 3 on vehicles, not so much on Terminators. They don't have AP, a little bit of wounds on Termagants that don't have good saves. And then we have the Storm Bolters from the Terminators. At the long range, we have 2 shots. At half range, we have 4 shots as a rapid fire weapon. And we see that we can do some damage to something like a Termagant. We can, let's say, at half range, with 4 shots, we can do less than 1 wound on Intercessors, and then very little wounds on Terminators, and almost nothing for the vehicles. The Autostorm Gauntlets we were talking about, the twin-linked, a little bit more damage, basically because you can reroll the whole wound roll, but still nothing super strong against the tough opponents. 1 Termagant killed and one wound on Intercessors. And then we have the Bolt Rifles. If they advance and move, we have 2 shots hitting on 3+. You can see the damage. Again, nothing special versus vehicles. If the Intercessors are stationary, where they are hitting on a 2+, and then you get a better damage output, but still not much versus enemy vehicles. This is, of course, for 1 bolt rifle. If you have a full squad, if you have 10-man squad, you can multiply the damage by 10 in this table. And then if we add the Lieutenant for the Intercessor squad, he gives them an ability that 6 is to hit auto wound. And here we can see, and if they are stationary, hitting on 2+, the 6 is auto wound. We are starting to do some damage on the Terminators and the vehicles, but nothing super strong. So if we have 10 Intercessors with their bolt rifles shooting at a Rhino, they will be doing, let's say, 1 wound. If they have a Lieutenant with them, they will be able to do 3 wounds on average. And then the Flesh Borer from the Termagant, very little damage overall. And then the Heavy Flamer from the Terminators, good versus infantry, some nice damage for Termagants and Intercessors, but again, not super strong against the vehicle. The auto hit, of course, helping the profile out. And then we have the Assault Cannon of the Terminators with the devastating wounds, so mortal wounds instead of the normal damage on 6 to wound. And this gives some good damage to the Termagants and the Intercessors, and we also can do some wounds on the vehicles thanks to the mortal wounds and the strength 6. And then the Shuriken Cannon with the exploding 6s and the damage 2 profile. It's good against marine equivalents like the Intercessor here. So killing one model with a Shuriken Cannon would be able to kill 1 Intercessor and do some damage versus some of the other targets. And then going to a bit stronger ranged weapons that we have seen, the Cyclone missile, the Crack missile from Terminators, 2 shots, d6 damage and strength 9. we can do some damage for intercessors, and we are starting to do some damage, especially for the toughness 9 Rhino. But if we go to Gladiator and Repulsor, only wounding on 5 pluses, we have less damage there. The new Melta rifle with strength 9 on the move and at half range from the Eradicators. Now we can start to see some more damage on the vehicles, and of course, if they were stationary, they will be hitting on 2 pluses and get more damage output there. And then finally, the Hunter Killer missile that we saw from the Rhino profile, strength 14. It can wound the vehicles. It's hitting on a 2 plus, one shot, and it can wound on a 3 plus, d6 damage. So here it does 1.5 wound across all the 3 vehicles we have here. So all in all, a summary that very little damage output from the normal light weapons versus the new vehicles, and the mortal wounds from the assault cannon. That's quite a nice rule, and these shuriken cannons are a nice intercessor marine killer weapon. Moving now on to the melee weapons versus the defensive profiles, a similar table as you have in the previous slide. So basically, starting off with the termagants here, their claws and teeth, only one attack with a strength 3, almost 0 damage versus the Terminators and the vehicles here. Very little damage, but of course a big unit would be doing a little bit versus some other chaff. If we take the power weapon from the Terminators, we can see some decent damage versus the other infantry. And here we see also the Rhino with the armored tracks hitting on a 4 plus, 3 attacks, strength 6. It can kill one Rhino, could hopefully kill one Termagant. Previously with hitting on 6, your vehicles couldn't do anything in melee. But now here you could be able to do a little bit of damage. And then we go to the anti-vehicle weapon that we have for the Terminators, the Chain Fist. This will be wounding the vehicles on the table on a 3 plus, so hitting on 4s, but wounding on 3 pluses for the vehicles. We see one more, let's say a bit more than one wound per vehicle. So if we have a squad with a couple of Chain Fists, that could do some nice damage, and also good, let's say with a damage to profile of the Power Fist, Chain Fist strength 8. It's also a good marine killer versus the intercessors here. And the Power Fist for the Terminators was hitting on a 3 plus, and that's one of the best damages versus infantry. And then for the aggressors, the Twin Link Power Fist, being able to reroll everything gives it a better to wound, gives it a better damage output versus the vehicle compared to the normal Power Fist, but not as good versus the lighter infantry, where you are already wounding very well. Then the loss of the weapon skill, the hit roll is hurting more. So a bit of update here from the melee weapons. So, reaching to the summary and final thoughts, a lot of new rules for many weapons, and I think it's nice that they try to use some of the general rules, calling things like sustained hits, devastating wounds. That is something new we can use universally across the codexes. Also interesting that some of the weapons can combine the previous types, like heavy and assault, or pistol and heavy and things like that. The heavy seems to be a buff that if you stand still, you get advantage to your hit roll instead of a penalty while moving. Also, the assault, as I read it, there is no penalty. I couldn't read that there is a penalty incurred when you advance and shoot. Most light weapons, as we saw in the damage output, will have big problems wounding the tougher vehicles. And the twin-linked rules with a lot of rerolls for the wound rolls will help versus tough opponents. The question for Death Guard, of course, how will plague weapons, Ars Contaminator work? Will we also get a twin-linked, let's say, keyword? I hope the plague weapons are there. So far, most of the weapons we have been seeing are for Marines, and we have a little bit from the Eldari and the Tyranids. But it would be interesting to if Games Workshop could give us some idea of weapons for Chaos factions. Yeah, this concludes the video. What do you think about the new weapons, the new weapon rules, and the damage output so far that you have seen here? Let me know in the comments. If you want to further discuss with the community, you can join our Discord channel, GeneralJannis Chaos Tactics. If you want to further support my efforts, please visit my Patreon page or become a YouTube member. And with these words, GeneralJannis signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.